Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. My name's John Wenaina Karanja. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Melanin Solar and BitHub Africa. Um, we've been in the blockchain space for the past 7 years or so, mainly driving adoption across the African continent. So I will be giving a presentation today, essentially on how we can drive the adoption of energy across Africa. So I'm going to be sharing my presentation in just a second. Um, Screen, window, just a moment. Cancel. Here we go. So I hope you can all see that. So my presentation will be on driving sustainable energy adoption across Africa using blockchain technology. Just to give you a bit of background, I did mention before that we've been working in the 7 years in the blockchain space across Africa, and how we got into blockchain 7 years ago was at the time my co-founder and I were working for a startup called CrowdPesa, and we were trying to build an m-commerce platform that was integrated onto a mobile money technology that's quite famous and popular these days called M-Pesa. And the idea was for traders to come and trade with customers online on their mobile phone. However, we realized one of the challenges at the time was the M-Pesa platform was not domiciled locally and could not really be integrated into Web 2.0 applications. So that idea eventually failed. And around the same time, my co-founder Chris heard of a conference at the IHAB called Africoin Conference, where they were discussing something called Bitcoin. And we both went for that conference. And when we heard about Bitcoin, we realized that this was a very interesting technology that was talking about having open payments over the internet using obviously cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. And since then, this was around 2014. We went full into the technology to understand how it works, and we did meetups in Kenya and across 7 African countries, and we actually ended up in Zimbabwe with a startup that was using Bitcoin for remittances called Bitmari, and they were enabling people in the diaspora to send money home over the Bitcoin network, and they were sending it to rural farmers in Zimbabwe who were using that money for buying solar water pumps. So this is how we realized that there was a connection between financial access and energy access. A lot of people across the African continent remain in poverty just because they're not able to access their money, right? And a lot of the resources that they need in order to do their businesses, in order for their kids to study and study at night and do their homework, is energy. And many of these people are still using kerosene lamps. I myself, back in the day, we used to have a lot of power rationing in Kenya, and I used to use kerosene lamp for some time during the power rationing. So I could relate to this experience. So we decided to create a company called Melanin Solar, where we are driving sustainable energy access across Africa, and we're using blockchain technology. And our long-term vision is to connect 500,000 households to a distributed peer-to-peer energy market by the year 2025. So this is the problem that we have. We have a $2 trillion untapped solar energy market in Africa, and with 17% of the world population living in Africa as well. 600 million of these people do not have reliable access to power. And this is mainly because of either access to the technology, and even when the technology is available, people struggle to make the initial investment in a solar home system that they can install in their houses, and then be able to trade, be able to use that energy for their needs. So, for example, what happens a lot here in Kenya is people get a loan of about $1,200 from, or a lease from a solar vendor who comes and installs the solar system that allows them to have maybe one bulb on, maybe run a TV, maybe run a agroprocessor packaging machine, and they pay for these solar systems using monthly installments. And if they have a bad crop season, they're not able to make the payment. So what happens is they default, and that solar system is taken away from them, or it's turned off. So we are looking at blockchain technology to solve this problem of high capex by turning this solar system from liabilities into assets, where people buy these systems and they either pay for themselves, or they can be used to share energy within a certain community. So the background to this is, of course, blockchain technology, and in particular Bitcoin, because I did mention before that how we got into the space was through the Bitcoin ecosystem. And if you can look at the state of play, the current status of Bitcoin on the African continent is it has been growing quite rapidly, especially the last 3 years. We have Nigerians in the year 2020, last year, moving about $500 million on a peer-to-peer model. And these are people who are sending money from the diaspora. Nigeria has a large diaspora, or people using Bitcoin to do their online businesses, or even to store their money in a store of value. Of course, this is made controversial recently because the Nigerian central bank and main regulator was discouraging the use of cryptocurrencies in the country. But we still nevertheless see continued adoption of these cryptocurrencies. And the question we have to ask ourselves is it really solving a problem? Or what is the future, and how can Nigerians leverage this technology to improve their financial access, for example? So fundamentally, just to go a bit into Bitcoin, Bitcoin is a settlement monetary network, which is very efficient. Recently, we had $2.4 billion being moved over the network from one entity to another entity for a transaction fee of $26. And what this means is you're seeing value now being transacted over the internet using the Bitcoin protocol or the Bitcoin network. And this will only increase in future. So the question is, how much are Africans leveraged into this ecosystem? Are we taking advantage of this ecosystem? Are we really understanding what's going on? And this will be further enhanced by the Lightning Network, which scales to allow for automated machine-to-machine transactions. So essentially, what I'm saying here is the Bitcoin technology will not only be used by humans. For example, the Nigerians, in the diaspora sending money to their relatives back home. It will also be used by computerized entities and applications. So if you think of a Tesla car that's fully automated, that's driven by AI, the AI would prefer to work with a programmable monetary network, a network that understands bits and bytes, of which Bitcoin is the most liquid and the most superior network. So if we talk about IoT applications, smart applications, in the energy space, we talk about smart meters, they will be talking to these digital currencies because these digital currencies are in a language that they can understand. And this is something that people really do not appreciate, that the cryptocurrency economy is not just for humans, but it's for automated entities as well. So recently, and more relevant to energy, there's been a lot of controversy around Bitcoin mining and how Bitcoin mining is being currently used. We see 74% of Bitcoin mining being done using renewables, and this is mainly in China. A lot of this mining happens in China. And what happened, 7 years back is initially you used to be able to mine Bitcoin with your laptop or a computing device. And eventually, as the value of those Bitcoins appreciated, it became imperative for new innovations around computing processing to be innovated, because the competition was growing very quickly and more people were joining the network to mine these Bitcoins. I unfortunately was not able to mine because I came pretty late. And by that time, in 2014, you needed to have millions of dollars of investments to mine Bitcoin using specialized computer called ASICs. So a lot of this mining happened in rural parts of China. And what happened was essentially you had these huge dams that were built either by the local governments or other government entities that were underutilized because they were intended to power cities that became ghost cities. So this power was either underutilized or it was not monetized. So what these miners realized is that they could take this idle power and use it to mine Bitcoin and store that power in a digital token called Bitcoin. So Bitcoin essentially is subsidizing or incentivizing the on-streaming of idle power, and mainly hydroelectric power in China. So it's making projects that were initially not viable more viable, because it's now possible to turn potential energy into kinetic energy, which is electricity, and now into digital energy, which is now the cryptocurrencies. So cryptocurrencies are just a form of stored energy or stored value from what we can call physical energy, if you like. So the same thing can be done here in Africa. If you think about the DRC, they have the Grand Inga Dam project, which has a capacity of 45,000 megawatts. And 45,000 megawatts can serve the entire, what they call the sub-Saharan part of Africa, with the exception of South Africa, with all our energy needs. But yet, that opportunity has not materialized because the institutions or the government in Congo does not have enough money to bring this power on stream. But with Bitcoin mining, that huge natural resource that belongs to the Congolese can be made viable, where people now use that potential energy to mine Bitcoin. And this is something that at Melanin Ventures, we are advising entities that are interested in taking up such ventures, not only to bring renewable sources of energy on stream, but also to capitalize and benefit from these natural resources that are largely untapped on the African continent. So in summary, the Bitcoin economy will only continue to grow, and you'll see it beginning to dominate the energy economy. And we Africans have a huge advantage because we have a lot of natural resources. And in particular, one of the things that we have in Africa is access to solar energy or potential solar energy. There's a saying that goes that the sun shines brightest in Africa. And we all know this, those of us who live in Africa. And we've already begun to see the adoption of solar energy across the African continent. So we can use the same principle on proof of work mining that Bitcoin uses to take advantage at a smaller micro level to create mobile mining architectures. And for this, together with engineers across the world, the Bit Africa community was able to launch the WIVE protocol about over a year ago. And the WIVE protocol essentially has a proof of work mining algorithm that is biased towards smaller mobile computing devices that are built on the ARM architecture to encourage sustainable growth of distributed energy, and in particular solar. So the solar energy market on the African continent is estimated to be worth a potential of $2 trillion. So this is a huge economy or a huge market that we can bring online using blockchain technology. And it's just a matter of time before we see these kind of innovations coming to the market in the world. But Africa should be a leader in this because we have the biggest resources, including the human capital, the youth, to drive these innovations forward. So this particular protocol has a 20-year mining schedule, which means that the mining of the WIVE tokens can happen over the next 20 years, which will ensure the maximum distribution of solar energy-based microgrid ecosystems in Africa and eventually across the world. And we already have contributors from 15 plus countries. And I'll just mention the ones in Africa. We have Kenya, Rwanda, Mauritius, who have been engaged in the project. We've partnered with people from the United States. We have a professor at Howard University who wrote the paper for this protocol. We had developers from Israel and Malaysia, and of course, African countries like Burundi, who contributed some of the code to develop this protocol. So you can see the nature of collaboration on open source software to bring these innovations that will power the third industrial revolution. So essentially, my talk today is really to encourage those who are in the blockchain space looking for a viable use case beyond financial use cases, to look at the energy use case and what you can do to bring a lot of our natural resources online using blockchain technology. So I won't go too much into this, but the WIVE protocol is near completion in terms of its full feature set, and we'll be having its rollout in the coming months. This is where we are in terms of the protocol, and it should be coming. It should be commercialized within the next few months. This is really now the opportunity that we're talking about. So you heard me mention the Bitcoin and WIVE protocol. So how exactly will they be used in terms of powering the adoption of solar energy in the case of the WIVE protocol? So essentially, Melanin Solar is developing a hardware device, which looks like your typical modem in the house that you can plug into your solar home system. And what that does is it stores any excess solar energy in the form of a digital token that we're calling WIVE. And consequently, as more of these solar hubs are installed, you can now begin to interconnect them and create a mesh network where neighbors in villages can share energy with each other, all automated on the blockchain. So if you have, for example, my grandmother in the village, she has capacity to invest in in 5 solar panels. She can share that energy over the blockchain to her neighbors on a fully transparent and accountable system. This is not possible to do with the current legacy financial infrastructure. So the adoption of solar at a large scale across the African continent will have to be driven by what you call Web 3.0 technologies like blockchain, IoT, even a bit of machine learning AI in order to do some of the intelligent work. And you recall that I mentioned that cryptocurrencies are going to be used more so by machines, even more than humans, because they are programmable. So to create these solar grid ecosystems, we can leverage the power of this technology. So the current value of the ecosystem is worth $60 billion with a 2 trillion market potential, as I mentioned before. The main countries that already have existing solar sites, and we estimate there are about 700,000 solar sites, are Kenya, Rwanda, Nigeria, Ghana, DRC, Malawi, Zambia, and also Tanzania as an 8th country. And we're looking to partner with vendors who are already existing to deploy this Melanin Solar Smart solution that runs on blockchain. So just to cap our distributed energy solution, it removes trust barriers by using blockchain for accountability and transparency. Because it's a digital format, transaction and operational costs are very low in terms of energy sharing. And it decentralizes production and transmission of consumption of solar energy. So anyone who has a solar PV setup can now become a producer in this ecosystem, where they are plugged in using the smart box, and they can provide energy to their neighbors, or they can store excess energy in the form of a digital token, which can be used later. Yes, so we're also allowing multiple solar providers, whom we call prosumers, to distribute electricity. So this model makes the businesses of solar vendors, who initially were using debt, more viable. They're able to sustain themselves. They don't have to force farmers to get loans. They can be, cash flow positive in a very short period of time, as well as help improve the environment by using renewable power. So lastly, you can also create the largest open peer-to-peer market on the African continent, where people can adopt these solar solutions. So one statistic that I can mention is a solar smart box can increase the average income of every household. If you recall the Zimbabwe farmers I talked about, by about $100 a month. And that's enough money to get them over the poverty line in today's terms. So it is the case that giving energy access can solve a huge part of the poverty problem we have on the African continent. Because Africans are resource rich, they have land, they have access to the sun, they have access to different natural resources, but we've not been able to bring them mainstream because the technologies that we needed were not yet there. But I believe with blockchain, we finally have a huge opportunity. So we achieved this by training engineers. I mentioned before that we have a huge pool of talent on the African continent. BitHub Africa has been training engineers for the past 3 years or so. And before that, we were training people on blockchain technologies and cryptocurrencies. So now we need to train engineers to build these blockchain applications and maintain them and deploy them across our target markets and across the African continent. And the goal for us is to train about 2,000 engineers who will support the ecosystem that we're building. We have a picture of a solar setup that we were able to do in Kajiado County, Kenya. On the left, you can see our engineers there. Some are electrical engineers, some are electronic, some are blockchain engineers. Simon there in the middle is a blockchain engineer. And on the right, we have an image of the setup. So you have the traditional power setup that you all know, with the inverter, with the circuit breaker and the socket. And then we have the Melanin Solar Smart Box, which now comes and is integrated into that system to create the distributed energy network on blockchain. And this is a prototype that we've been able to build and deploy. Yes, so we need more partnerships to drive these curriculums that are on the Melanin Academy website, which is at melanin.academy. Yeah, so the next steps is for people to get involved. We have the Wive protocol has a community. You can visit the protocol website, which is wive.io. And there's a Telegram community where we have people from across the world, including Africans, contributing. The link is there. Then we have the academy, which is at www.melanin.academy, that is being run by Bit of Africa. And I also have my personal contact there for anyone who is looking to join our efforts. So there's a picture of me and my co-founder, Chris. Chris is on the right, and we are there with the community in Kajiado, Kenya. So we tick all the boxes at Melanin Solar. We have the largest blockchain African community. We've been around for a few years. The market need is huge. We solve the energy problem in Africa. We solve half of the poverty problem. We're building strategic partnerships to deploy this technology. And of course, we have disruptive technology like blockchain. And we look forward to working with those who are looking forward to this exciting opportunity. So I'll stop sharing my presentation. I hope you are able to see the presentation. Oh, no. Okay. So let me see if I can share that again. I'm sorry about that, but I hope you can see that now. So this is a slide where I talked about the problem statement, where we have a $2 trillion untapped energy market. This is a slide where I talked about driving financial access with Bitcoin and how Bitcoin has become a popular peer-to-peer model for transactions and how it's driving energy adoption across the world. This is a slide where I talked about Wive and CPU mining. That's a slide of our roadmap. That's a slide of the opportunity where I mentioned the 7 main markets that are in Africa for this technology. That's a slide where I talked about the distributed energy solution and how it removes trust barriers. And then this is the slide where I talked about how we're building this solution on top of blockchain technology. And this is a slide where I mentioned our engineers. So we have our engineers to the left and we have our solution to the right. And our goal is to train 2,000 engineers across the African continent. And this is our slide where we have our contacts. So you can join the Wive community at wive.io or t.me/wive.io, or you can partner with us to drive our training agenda at the Melanin Academy at www.melanin.academy. So that's me on the left with my co-founder on the right. Thank you. So that's my presentation for today. Kume, are you there? So are there any questions? All right. I don't see any questions. All right. So I'll sign off here. It was a pleasure giving this presentation. Again, I'm John Karanja, CEO of Melanin Solar. And you can contact me at my email, which is Wanaina, WAINAINA dot Karanja, KARANJA, at bithub, BITHUB dot Africa. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing you guys again. Bye.